Hey guys, what is going on? Dylan here. What I got for you today is another rocket damage testing video. There was an update that recently came out that buffed precision frames and high impact frames. So naturally, I had to go back to the Grasp of Avarice dungeon. I had to go to my favorite ogre and see how these buffs impacted the current rocket meta. In Season 22, I did some damage testing, and these were the results that I got with Cold Comfort, with Bait and Switch being the top dog, followed by Apex Pred, then Hothead, and a very surprising Code Duello in the 4th position. So I'm excited to see how that one's going to perform since that was one of the ones that got buffed. Dragon's Breath, we also did a damage testing in the beginning of the season, but I didn't have the Catalyst then, so I want to revisit that as well. For my damage testing videos, I always use Lunafaction Boots, Well of Radiance, and those mods on the right side to maximize results. First on our list is going to be the Palmyra-B. This is going to have volatile launch, impact casing, impulse amplifier, and explosive light. This is a crafted version, so impulse amplifier and explosive light are going to be the enhanced versions, and I'm always going to max out those perks as much as possible. So for example, you can go up to 7 times on explosive light. So 7 out of these 12 shots that we now have, it did buff the reserve by 2. So we're going from 10 shots where it normally would be up to now 12. Is going to have that extra damage for explosive light. So we're going to hop off the map here. And so first, Palmyra-B coming in at 1.62 million damage. Now, this was not one of the rockets that I tested before, so as of right now, I'm not sure how big of a buff that was, but we're going to just pocket that for now. Palmyra-B again, but this time instead of explosive light, I wanted to try it with chill clip. With more rockets, obviously 12 rockets, I wanted to see if we'd get more shatters being more damage. So I just want to see how this would stack up against explosive light and try to see which one was the better perk. Now, if I were to do this all over again, I may also do a lasting impression one as well, because from my results, it seemed like lasting impression was a very, very good perk. That I can't say for sure. We would have to, revisit that a little bit. But anyways, do our damage with chill clip, jump off the map per usual, and our damage is now going to be 1.592 million, so not as good as explosive light. Also, the number to the next to the damage number is going to be damage per rocket if you're not familiar. Here I wanted to include Ascendency. Ascendency is a ritual weapon, but it is very easy to get for even new players. So I wanted to include all rockets that were affected by this, or not all, but as many as I could, so that even some of the new players could take part in getting some of these weapons that have been affected by it, or see if it's even worth it. For Ascendency, it's going to have quick launch instead of volatile launch, but it still has impact casing, impulse amplifier, and explosive light. Now, with Ascendency, it does not get the full 12 rockets. I believe this one only got 11 rockets. So that's an important distinction there. So one rocket is a full amount of damage. So this one only did 1.474 million damage, but because of the fact that it only had 11 rockets, damage per rocket was actually more than the Palmyra-B with chill clip. Now here's Roar of the Bear. This is going to have volatile launch, impact casing, field prep, and vorpal weapon. Now, as I stated earlier in the video, there's better perks for Roar of the Bear. But I'm actually super blown away by the damage that we did. This one does get a full 12 rockets, and with the better perks, I think this one might be one of the top dogs. Now, obviously, I couldn't grind for a better perk roll because we're not getting Iron Banner until April 2nd, so I may have to try to maybe revisit and see, is Roar the Bear going to be the next Rocket King? Because, Field Prep and Vorpal Weapon, those are not the best perks by any means, and I still did 1.641 million damage, putting us at the top of those impact or precision frames currently. All right, Semiotician, 11 rockets in this one, volatile launch, impact casing, impulse amplifier, explosive light. This was one that I was super excited about at the start of, what was it, last season that it came out. I thought this one was going to potentially be a new DPS meta, and it definitely was not. It did not live up to the hype. But what about after this recent buff? So obviously we're maxing out at the 7 explosive lights, only 11 rockets. So there's only 4 rockets that don't have explosive light with it, so could be potentially promising. But again, it is hurt with the fact that it only gets 11 rockets instead of the full 12. 1.584 million damage, but because of 11 rockets, it is going to be the most damage per rocket so far at 144,000 damage per rocket, which is really interesting. Next on our list, Braytech Osprey. This is another one that I think I'm going to grind a new roll for because, you'll see in a minute here, but we have, on this one, we're going to have Lasting Impression and Field Prep. And I'm going to just pull up my notes here real quick. Hold on, don't yell at me. And it also has Countermass and Alloy Casing. This is an Adept version, so it does have Adept big ones on it as its mod to try to maximize that damage out. Basically, if you can use it on this rocket normally, I tried to include it just to see how much damage we could get out of it. So the only thing with lasting impression is obviously that delayed explosion. But even then, with that, we still came in at a whopping 1.752 million damage. So with impact casing, that's definitely going to get better. So that is one I would say grind for when you get the chance. All right, revisiting Code Duello, the sleeper pick. This one's going to have that volatile launch, impact casing, field prep, and lasting impression. When we did the damage testing that we did before, this one was a shocker because it came in as the fourth best. This rocket launcher you can't even really get anymore unless Zur is selling it or through some alternative means. So hopefully you have one, and hopefully it has lasting impression on it. If not, you would just have to wait for it to show up somewhere, whether it's through Banshee or Zur, and hopefully it has impact casing and lasting impression on it, because the damage on this thing is surreal. 1.795 million damage. That is shocking. That's more than Braytech. Now, considering Braytech doesn't have impact casing on it, that could change. That might change a little bit. The Code Duello that blows me away. Gjallarhorn, so some exotics were also affected by this as well, so I wanted to go back with Gjallarhorn. I think the first time we did this, Gjallarhorn only was at like 1.1 million, somewhere around there, so I want to see how it is now affected after this change. So 12 rockets, which is, I don't know if the 12 rockets really helps it out because you get Wolfpack rounds for X amount of time. So, I mean, you get more rockets to shoot, obviously, so that helps. But the Wolfpack rounds helping your teammates out, I don't know. So jump off the cliff there, and we're going to come in at 1.385 million damage. So definitely a buff there, just nowhere, close to these other rockets, but still, it is a buff. So those were the high impact frames and precision frames that I tested. Now we're going to go back to some originals. So here we have the Apex Predator. This is going to have reconstruction, bait, and switch. Now, bait and switch was also nerfed. So we'll see how it holds up now, but this is going to have volatile launch, impact casing, reconstruction, bait and switch, and I'm trying to max this out as much as possible. And I know Apex Predator is a lot of people's go-tos, but after this recent update, I don't know. I'm not so sure anymore. I mean, it just depends on the damage phases and how long they are if you can get all 12 rockets off. And so we're coming in at 1.425 million damage. That's not even above Ascendency. But again, the difference is the amount of rockets you can fire. Next, we're going to be using Cold Comfort, which, if you saw, that was the king of damage. This is going to have Volatile Launch, Impact Casing, Envious Assassin, and Bait and Switch. The thing that hurts Apex Predator is it only gets 9 rockets, even after using the reserve mods, so not a lot of rockets to be fired. The damage per rocket, I believe, is some of the best out there, but just not a lot overall. Cold Comfort gets a 10 rockets, so with Bait and Switch, get that procced a lot more damage to that. So that is going to come in, let's see, does it hold a candle to the Duello? 1.714, 1.714 million damage, 171,000 damage per rocket, which is insane. Just still not as good as Code Duello or Braytech. Next, Crux Termination. I do not have a god roll for this. I have Envious Assassin Surrounded. Surrounded's really the perk that you want, but I also don't have Impact Casing, nor do I have Volatile Launch. I have just not been lucky at all when it comes to grinding for this weapon. But I still wanted to give it a shot, see how it held up, because Surrounded is the main thing here. Impact Casing's only just going to enhance it, make it better. And Envious Assassin is not a bad perk by any means, so I know normally people want like Slide Shot with it. But even still, I want to test it with Surrounded to see what we get. And so I took a ton of attempts. This was the best attempt that I could get, and we came in at 1.723 million damage, or 172,000 damage per rocket, which is still fantastic and better than Cold Comfort even when it comes to damage per rocket, which is not really that surprising because a lot of people have talked about how great that rocket is. Next is Dragon's Breath. I want to revisit this here. Now, I do want to preface, we turned off all artifact mods. The only one that I have on is the solo fire team one. I have that for every single rocket, but all the artifact mods that I have picked are ones that don't affect damage at all for rockets. I don't have any of the solar ones picked. I specifically chose ones to not have any sort of impact on these rocket launchers. But I did want to do the solo fire team one since that was one that I was using for every single rocket. But here we just rapid fire the Dragon's Breath like it ain't no thing. And we're going to come in at an absolutely destroying, whopping 1.933 million damage. So still king, Dragon's Breath. You are definitely still king. And I wanted to see how much we could push this. So now I turned on artifact mods, and I am going to try to stretch the damage as much as possible. So throw a grenade, do a weakening melee, and we're just going to go to town and see. When I did this earlier in the season, I had the prediction that I would get about 2.1 million damage with this rocket launcher. Now, I didn't necessarily include all the extra melee and grenade damage, but so we came in at like 1.93, so not quite as much as I was saying, but even still, we should be getting over 2 million for sure here. So jumping off, and our damage is gonna be, we're gonna come in at an absolutely overwhelming 2.176 million damage. That was half the health bar for the ogre, which is insane. So there is what our damage looks like. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave it below. Leave a like, subscribe, and yeah, very, very cool results. I'm definitely going to be grinding for that Roar of the Bear and Braytech Osprey. That's all I got for you guys. Love y'all. Talk to y'all later. Bye.